I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yeah, hi
So
everybody,
help me
Ron
God.
here from The Truth About Addiction. Today's guest is Soberdave. Dave's in the UK, so I don't know what time it is over there, mate, but thank you very much for coming on to The Truth About Addiction, Dave.
Oh, it's a pleasure, mate. It's 8 a.m. and now I'm quite a few years sober. I get up at about 5 o'clock, so it's fine.
Yeah, right. It's funny, you get up and you actually remember getting up and you remember going to bed.
Well, when you wake up, you haven't got that dreaded feeling of what have I done? That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I hated that.
Yeah, I know.
Go and check the car to see if there's any blood on it.
Well, I went that bad, but it was like, who have I texted? What have I said to someone? I don't remember going home. I don't remember getting into bed, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And then you spend half an hour with all that shame and regret trying to remember and step things back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You were a blackout drinker?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to a stage that it was every single day to blackout.
Yeah.
That's where I got.
Yeah. I laugh. You know, my wife's not an alcoholic and she'll open a bottle of wine and she'll have that much. And I think, why would you bother?
Yeah, I used to work in people's houses and I'd see the old cork stopper in the bottle and didn't understand it myself and think,
Yeah.
well, I would clean my teeth with the rest of that. Do you know what I mean? It was like an odd mentality I had back then. But I think, you know, when we develop a problem, we all kind of go that way, don't we? Where we champion it almost of, look how much I can drink and I can still get up for work in the morning and function. But now I'm sober, I don't think I did function at all. I just think I didn't know any different.
We existed and we adapted.
Yeah, that was what it was.
Yeah. We existed and we existed and we adapted. And for me, alcohol was such a poison, and it is a poison. And I'll debate that with anybody that wants to sit down and talk about alcoholism and addiction. If you are an alcoholic and you drink alcohol, you're poisoning your system.
Yeah.
Why do we vomit?
Yeah. But I don't even think you need to be an alcoholic to say you're poisoning your system because there's no benefits to alcohol whatsoever.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Cigarettes and alcohol, not one benefit.
Well, none at all. So people could argue, well, it helps me relax, but how long for? It's a temporary solution, isn't it? To a problem.
I can think of lots of things that make me relax.
Now, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the time we don't know any different, do we? It's our default go-to, right? I need a drink, whatever it is, good day, bad day, any day. So
Yeah. What you said was beautiful, but we'll champion because we could drink so much. I could drink you under the table.
well, that was my name, you know, like whenever I would go out and the doors of the pub would swing open and they saw me and they nicknamed me Glugs because I would glug it back really quickly. I could drink 5, 6 pints in an hour. And it was like, Glugs is in the house. Yeah, we're all going to have a good night kind of thing. But they would all go home about 9 o'clock and I'd still be there trying to find the next bar open, you know, and then fall in at 2 o'clock in the morning. So, you know, when you look back at it, it's ludicrous, isn't it?
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know about for you, Dave, but for me, I was allergic to alcohol from my very first drink. And I loved it.
Similar. Yeah. I didn't like the taste of it. It was like when I had my first cigarette, it was revolting. But you carried on doing it to fit in, didn't you? And then I realized it was fixing how I was feeling instantly. And I never was really into drugs or anything like that. Well, I dabbled, but it wasn't really my main thing. But I knew where I was with booze. You know, I knew how many pints would make me feel this certain way, how many I would need to get drunk. And then after that, I lost count. So, but it was my go-to for 40 years, Ron.
You gave it a good run.
I did 4 decades, and in my 40s, I don't even remember them. So, you know, that's the sad thing, but you can't look back, can you? You can only move forward. So, That's my mantra now, really. You can learn by the past,
Yeah.
but you can't change it.
No, mate. No, we can't. No. I say to people talk about higher powers and gods, and that's a different story for a different day. But, I've always had trouble with the God things in different programs and that, I say your past is so irrelevant, even your God can't change it.
Yeah. And we all talk about the higher power, and that could mean several things these days. But I think it's like, I always have this analogy of like, if you and me were to go shopping and I'll take you into my shop and you go, nah, do you know what? I don't really like that. But you come to mine and I go, well, I'm not sure about that either. It works for what you believe in. So I didn't go down the step process at all. I tried it in the beginning, a few meetings and that, but it didn't work for me. So I did it another way and that worked for me, so it's as long as we get there, it doesn't matter what route we take, right?
Yeah, 100%, mate. I walked into my first AA meeting in 1977.
Wow.
And I shook my head and thought, oh my God, these poor old bastards.
Yeah.
I hope I never end up like them.
Yeah. But the thing is, Ron, back then there was nothing else really, was there? It was AA or white knuckling it. And
AA or Amen.
Yeah, yeah. And there's so many different options now available for people and groups and communities everywhere. And, I think it's great now that people have got so many options.
Even what we're doing now, David.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I read your story earlier and it blew my hat off. Do you know what I mean? About what you've gone through, and it's relatability, isn't it? It's when you hear someone tell their story and you think, God, that was me. And I can really relate to what he's saying or what they're saying. Do you know what I mean? And it helps people.
100%. The empathy and compassion that I've been given because of sobriety, it gives me an ability. I was looking up some of your stuff earlier on, and I believe I'm obligated to carry a message of recovery to people and say, you don't have to stay stuck in these wheels of addictions. And to me, everything's addiction. Once I put down alcohol, well, I took up heroin and that, but it's the same. To me, it's just a poison me. So I just kept on changing chemicals, trying to swap the witch for the bitch. But I was always trying to cover something and trying to fill something.
Yeah.
And in sobriety, I had to find something that, first of all, I had to find out what was wrong. That was a wrong, for me, it was a feeling that I didn't quite fit in. I always felt different. And I never had enough. In fact, when I got clean in 1981, I got clean the first time really and stayed clean for 10 months sober. And it was only AA. There was none of this Narcotics Anonymous and Cocaine's Anonymous and Anonymous. I get confused with all the Anonymouses they've got these days, I joke about that, I go to Anonymous, but I don't tell anyone where it is, But, But what happened was, for me, mate, I got the therapeutic value of one alcoholic helping another. That's what touched me. I never learned anything in the first 3 or 4 years of going to 12-step programs, but I got empathy and compassion for somebody who'd been through the same place I had been, and they'd tied my shoelaces and they'd walked my path.
Yeah, I know. I was talking to someone yesterday, actually, who's in the grips of their addiction, and I could tell in the eyes that they were so lost, and it took me right back to when I was there, and I never want to lose touch of that. And quite often I visit the places that I've had terrible experiences at, just to reconnect with where I was then to where I am now, and just stay in touch with my emotions around how far I've come since stopping drinking. And I think it's really important.
I 100% agree. And it's really important to stay in contact with where we came from. Because if I forget where I came from, I might just end up back there.
Yeah, exactly. It's progress. You have to look at your progress, but stay in touch with how it was for you. And that you can really help others by that as well.
Yeah, cool. So what was your turning point. People call it rock bottom. I had lots of rock bottoms. You know, I had millions of rock bottoms, and I've had rock bottoms while I've been in sobriety.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, shall I start from the beginning, Ron, and
Please.
just give you a brief of?
Yes, mate.
Yeah, I grew up in South London in UK, and my mum and dad were actually really poor. My dad was a lorry driver on like minimum wage, and my mum worked in a factory. But you know, we had quite a good upbringing. Always dinner on the table, secondhand clothes all the time. You know, have the Mickey taken out of us at school and that, but it wasn't a major issue. But we moved when I was 12 to a different area, and it was just as rough. But I had to start school in the second year. So everyone had established their friendships and that, and I walked into the classroom like a bag of nerves. And I was quite a shy kid. I didn't socialise. I only had a couple of mates, and that was quite sporty in that. And I walked into this classroom, and it was horrific for me. You know, like it was really rough, and I didn't fit in. So I kind of plodded on for the next year or so. But my mum and dad were arguing a lot. And then one day I came down to get my breakfast, and there was a letter on the table, and it was from my mum, and she had left. And she didn't explain why or when she was going. It was just a letter saying, Dave, just let you know I've left your dad. I will be in touch. And I was like shell shocked seeing it, right. I didn't know what to think, or, you know, so I went to school, and I come back home. My dad was in pieces because he had a similar letter and that. And then I suppose for the next few months, I didn't know where I was. I felt abandoned, rejected. My dad was struggling because he was trying to be the mum and dad in the family. And all the lads that I'd seen in this classroom that petrified me were going out drinking, they were womanizing, and it wasn't my thing. But one day I thought, you know what, I might join them just to see what it's all about. And we went up the shops, and they had loose change, and they were giving it to adults to go in the off license to buy beer. And I had my first can of lager, age 14, and it was a can of Foster's, which now I look back, it was like I wouldn't have even touched that towards the latter stage of my drinking, because I was into the high percentage stuff, you know. But I had that, and then another one, and then they started laughing at what I was saying, and I thought, oh, I'm funny. I feel accepted. I feel part of something. So this carried on. And then we started going to the pub, because back then you didn't need ID. So you could just bowl into a pub and go up to the bar and get served. Started drinking with the adults. So I already hooked into alcohol at a very young age. You know, this was my thing. It stopped me worrying, thinking about what had happened, gave me confidence. I felt part of a crowd. But going through my teens in that, I wasn't too bad. You know, I used to go out the weekends, get drunk and that, but everyone did, didn't they? But I was into sport a lot. So it was a work hard, play hard thing going on into my 20s. But I suppose when it was about when I was late 20s, I started going to a little local pub in the UK, which was in those days, you'd have a saloon bar and a public bar. The public bar was where all the workmen went, and the saloon was where the solicitors, lawyers, whatever went. So I was in the public bar playing darts, pool and that. And people started saying, God, you really drink quick, Dave. Like I would drink, as I said before, 5-6 pints an hour, but I'd stay in there and do the whole session, fall out of there. But gradually into my 30s, people started commenting saying, bloody hell, mate, are you all right? Like you got a problem and that. So I really took offense by it, because I thought I was getting away with it. So over the road from the pub was an off license. So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to really start nipping it in the bud in the pub, because people are commenting. And I went over there, and they had Diamond White cider on offer, which was 8.4% back then, right? So I bought 4 of them, went home, drank them, and I thought, this is absolute heaven, because no one's watching me, judging me. I loved it. And then within no time, those 4 cans turned to 8 cans. And then you could buy a case then, 24 cans. So I used to go in there and go, sod it. I'll have a case and that, and just stick them in the fridge. Go in the pub, have 2 or 3, go home, and then drink 8 cans of this cider and just fall asleep. So this happened all the way through my 30s. I started to drink indoors, and that was my demise, really. It was like, it took me away from the social drinking into the solitary drinking. And when I was 40, I moved to a lovely cottage, which was really quaint, actually. And I used to call it Hotel Belmonte, because the place I lived in was called Belmont, and it was my little sanctuary, as I thought. So this was 2 or 3 miles away from my pub. So I stopped going there. And I realized as well, Ron, that when I walked in, they were going, Glugsy, all right, son. As I left, it was like, arsehole, you know, like it was a fake group of friendships there. And I soon realized that. But what happened then was, because I wasn't going to the pub, I started just drinking indoors. And they had offers on at the time, buy 3 bottles of wine for 10 quid. I thought, well, that's a cheap night out. And that lasted me a couple of nights. But soon after that, I realized actually it was lasting me 1 night, where I was drinking 2.5 bottles. And then I couldn't finish the 3rd one because I was falling asleep. But I was in my little cozy blanket of security, of no one's judging me. No one knows I've got a problem with drinking. I can free pour, so no one's watching me. I loved it. But I started putting on a lot of weight. Again, people were commenting in the mornings when I was going to work and that. And I worked for myself, so I could get away with it, really. So I Googled what alcohol has the least amount of calories, and up popped vodka. And I was never, ever a spirit drinker. And so I thought, right, I'd give it a go. So I bought half a bottle of vodka, which in hindsight was crazy because it lasted about half an hour because I was a glugger.
Yeah.
So I bought a bottle of vodka and I was drinking that in a couple of hours. And I thought, this is dodgy, but hey, I start buying supermarket brand litres of vodka. And it was probably within 3 months, I was drinking a litre a night of vodka and passing out, waking up, usual 3 o'clock in the morning, anxiety, worrying who I'd text, what I'd said. And I started to feel quite angry as well, because I think I realised who I was turning in, or what I had turned into. Do you know what I mean? I just didn't even know myself. I'd lost friends. I wasn't socialising. And that's why I don't remember my 40s, because I literally locked myself in to my house. I used to kind of escape in the mornings. I know all the patterns of the neighbours when they would leave for work. So I'd leave 5 minutes earlier so I wouldn't have to have conversations, and just park the van up somewhere before I had to pick someone up. And then when I picked them up, I think, God, my van must stink of booze. And it was all these horrible thoughts that were filling my brain up with. And that went on into my 50s, Ron. And when you say rock bottoms, I could list hundreds, like literally hundreds. But I was in a relationship in my 50s, and she didn't really know about my drinking when we got together, and we got married, and the cracks started to show because I was doing the usual hiding it, denying it. You know, the old go into the shower, I'd have a bottle of wine hidden under the bed, drink it in one, come out, and she'd say to me, "Are you all right?" And I'd say, "Oh, the shower was too hot." Smuggling little miniatures in my briefcase, and you know, it was an absolute disaster. Arguments, and you can't sustain anything when you're drinking like that, can you? Because it's impossible. And then one day I had a massive, massive argument, and I just got in the van and drove, right? And I always used to head for the sea because I always find the sea quite calming. I headed down there. It was Easter weekend in 2018 in the April, and we were unusually, the weather was really nice, right? So I dumped the van off down a side road and was on the pier in the bar at 10 a.m. And I had a 4-day bender on that. I was drinking all day. Over here, we've got Witherspoons and it's really cheap and you get all sorts in there. So you're not ever judged in there. I've made fake friends outside on the table in the sun, and we all become mates, best mates for life after about 5 minutes. And I think I must be drinking 15, 16 pints of Stella, fell into the co-op, bought a litre of vodka and decided to sleep on the beach because it was lovely. The stars were out. Actually, it was horrific, mate, because it was freezing. It was only April. I had a thin coat on and I was paralytic. And I fell over, hit my head, cut all my eye open. And towards the end of that 4-day bender, I thought I just need to find the van. I had no idea where the van was. And I was wandering around the streets for about 4 hours, falling over, falling into walls and that. And I remember this black taxi pulled up and this girl got out and looked at me. She went, "Oh, you loser," like that. And I thought, do you know what? I look like one. I've got blood all over my face from 3 days ago, all dried up. I haven't had a shower. I've been on a bender for 3 days. But this time last week, Ron, I was in Chelsea in London measuring up a flat for some carpet. So I've gone from that to that in a week, right? I eventually got home. I don't know how. And I went to see the doctor because the week before that, they had double dosed my antidepressants as well. And they didn't even ask about my drinking. They just said, you know, double it up and see if that makes you better, because I was depressed, you know. And I think I'd gone psychotic with all the alcohol as well. And I went to see her and she changed that. And I thought, right, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to kill myself. And I was really lucky I didn't die then, because the hypothermia, or I could have bled out on the beach and that. 3 days later, I'm drinking again. You know, the fading bias effect, you forget it all and go, "Oh, well, I can have one." Like, I'll moderate, and we all know where that goes. So that went on for another few months. I lost my mum in that year. She became ill and died, which was horrendous. I was with her when she died. I had a very expensive watch stolen. I had the builder run off with 25 grand of my money. It was a horrendous year throughout. And I used to then justify, well, no wonder I was drinking because of this, that, and whatever. But anyway, I went for the Christmas. And one day, we talk about a sign from the universe. One day, a friend of mine that I had a lot of respect for just dropped me a text and said, "How do you feel about joining me to stop drinking for 3 months?" And I literally burst out laughing. I was like, "I can't even stop for 3 days. What are you talking about? What? This is ridiculous." But something happened that day. And we talk about spontaneous sobriety, where someone just gives up on the day. But I don't believe that is fact, right? Because for me, for months and months, even years, I kept saying, "I've got to sort this out. I need to do something about this." And it was like drip feeding my brain into getting to this point. And in the afternoon, I pulled over in Wimbledon and I looked at it again and I started thinking, I wonder how my life would look like in 3 months if I'd stopped drinking. I wonder how my health would be, because that's a whole new subject. Well, my health was shocking. Like my blood pressure, my weight gain. I was on antidepressants. I had acid reflux where I could just vomit out acid out of nowhere. I was in a shocking state. You know, all these questions I started to ask myself. And I felt this like, almost like this big emotion of, this is a real opportunity here for you to change things. So I texted him, "Hi, mate, are you in?" And he's never in, ever. He's one of these people that got a million things on the go all the time. And he went, come and see me. So I drove round, he opened the door and he just stood there like bloody God. It is like, la. And I looked at him and I went, okay, let's do it. And that was nearly 5 years ago. And I've never had a drink since, right?
Yes.
It was that, yeah, that moment in time. And I knew that if I was to do it, I had to do it properly. This was a doorway in time that I had to go through or not. And I quite often wonder as well, what would have happened if he wasn't in? Because I might have gone, oh, well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my story, mate. And from there, I just connected with communities on social. As I said before, I went to AA, but it didn't work for me. After 4 or 5 meetings, I found it a little bit judgy, and that could have been the meeting I was in. I should have maybe tried others, but it didn't quite feel right for me. And after the 5th one, I left there and I thought, I want to go and have a drink. And I thought, that's counterproductive for me. That's not working for me. So I looked on my socials and there was an event in London with certain people going that were big in the community. So I bought a ticket and I went there and stood outside like we do in AA meetings. You know, we wander up and down the street. And I thought, this is crazy. I'm going to go in. And when I went in and I listened to people talking, different vibe from AA, you know, and I met people after. And I remember getting on the train on the way back and everyone was drunk and swinging off the handles. And I thought, do you know what? This is all right. This is okay. And it felt fresh. It felt a different approach to sobriety. And it gave me that extra burst of energy to keep going. It inspired me. It motivated me to keep going. And then I just chipped away at the days, the months. Then I got to a year. And like yourself, Ron, you do this amazing podcast. I decided with all the people I've met in the community, I'm going to start it up. And you're Googling, what do I need? Who do I get on and whatever. And I did my first episode and it went to number 4 in the Apple charts, which was insane. It was like, what's happening here? And recording this podcast today, my episode is out tomorrow of my 100th episode, which I'm so proud of.
Sure.
Because like you, when you talk to people, you learn as the host as well about people's journeys and what they go through. And it's so inspiring, isn't it, to hear people's stories.
I love seeing people's recovery. I believe that I have an addictive personality. I'm addicted to recovery these days. I'm addicted to helping people these days.
Yeah.
I'm addicted to saying, hey, listen, there's a way out, guys. Look, my buddies have got a smart ass saying, they call me the Pied Piper of recovery. Because everywhere I go, people seem to get clean around me. Even when I went to prison, people got clean in prison.
Yeah.
Because I carry a message of hope.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. But, like people say, I've got the Midas touch. It's like if you really believe in it and you are the evidence that you can change, right? Especially at a certain age. I was 54 when I stopped drinking, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of blokes, they go, well, I've been drinking all my life now, so what's the point? But I'm the example of how you can turn your life around. This year, I've climbed 2 mountains at my age, right? And it's not all about climbing mountains. Let's make that clear, right? Because you could get into flipping jigsaw puzzles or sewing or gardening or going for a little walk with your dog. It's about what works for you. But for me, for the last 40 years, I've literally just wasted my life drinking in pubs and that. And it's like, I need to see the world now. I've just come back from Nepal and that was absolutely amazing. In May, I was in Morocco, which was incredible. Seeing different cultures, and my holidays would be fully inclusive, drinking from 10 in the morning till I fell over in the evening holidays. And I would go to Mexico, or all these glamorous places, not even go outside the complex and see what the country is like because I was at the bar, you know. So it's more about how much can I cram in now into my life and explore that, but also experiencing what it's like to be part of a community where people look up to you for support and trust you as well. And that's really important to me.
Yeah. Integrity.
Yeah. Authenticity,
Yeah.
you know?
Nice. Yeah. I like those words.
Mm,
I didn't know what they were before I got clean.
exactly.
I couldn't spell them. I couldn't spell them.
Yeah.
So did you write a book, Dave?
Yeah, I wrote a book. So the irony of that was that when I was drinking, one of my catchphrases was, I could write a book about this one day. That's all I ever used to say, right? So I started writing a book, and it was based on really my life story, but also I wanted to pepper in some bits of how to help people because there's so many life stories out there as well. So I mixed it in with what I'd learned about coaching because I did a course with Jolene Park. To become a grey area drinking coach, which I was never a grey area drinking person. But when you got to the addiction of my level, people need more support than someone being on a Zoom. So I qualified to be that. I qualified to be a peer mentor, and I was addicted to learning and educating myself and doing courses and getting qualifications. And I did all that in lockdown because there was nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So this is where the old Zooms come out. We didn't know about them before that, did we? So I did all these courses and that, and I started helping people that way. And there's a lot of women that came to me because a lot of women were grey area drinkers, and they, through lockdown, they started drinking earlier in the day. In the UK, it was really hot. And then when they started going back to work at 1, 2 o'clock, they think, God, I need a bloody glass of wine, because obviously it got hold of them. So, you know, after lockdown, there was a big surge of people, and there still are. Really, it was terrible for drinking, wasn't it? So I put in lots and lots of elements of my coaching, how to deal with certain situations, you know, what to say to your friends, because that's a big in it when you stop drinking, because you get shamed a lot of the time. I realized actually that's just a mirror of their own issues. How to deal with anxiety. But then I started talking about mindset, because I always say the beginning, the first few months, it's like learning to drive, isn't it? You're worrying about the mechanics of it. How do I not drink tonight? Go to bed early, and, you know, like, don't go to events that trigger you and all these kind of things. But after a while, you start to hook into your emotional sobriety, which is when you get to a point where you start to wonder who you are, because you've been like someone else for years and years and years. In most cases, a child, you know, 14, 13. So I started looking into the mindset around emotional sobriety, and it's such a huge subject, as you know, Ron, because when we don't know our identity, it's like, where do we begin? And it's, you say you've been to prison. Well, when you come out, the world can look completely different at times, you know? And it's like, how do I shape my life? Do I go and commit a crime, rob the post office? I go back into something I know where I am, like institutionalized, and that's the same as going back to drinking?
Exactly.
Or do I make a go of it and start to create a new life? And this is what you say about filling the void with new things that are healthy options, like joining a cycling club, a ramblers trekking club, or revisiting your old hobbies. You have to find something to reshape your identity that you enjoy. Connect with communities of like-minded people so they get you. And let's face it, in this community, we do. It's almost like a Mason's handshake, isn't it? We go, oh, yeah, I've been where you are, so I absolutely hear you. And that's the way forward. It's like to create a new version of yourself that you're happy with, and work on your self-esteem and low self-worth, because that's where I got to, mate. And you probably did, where you look in the mirror and you go, I hate myself. Who am I? I'm I'm disgusting. That's how I used to appear at myself. And now I wake up and I go, you're all right, you are, mate. You're doing okay. Well done.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I never seen myself from 17 till 27. I never seen my face.
Really?
I went to a rehab in 1981, and it was when I was 27. I went to jail at 17, and I was in and out of jails and stuff like that, and using and drinking and things like that. And in prison, you didn't have mirrors, glass, because they were a weapon. They had stainless steel, and they were frosted over, and you couldn't see yourself. So I shaved for 10 years without seeing my face.
Wow.
And I went to a rehab and it had a glass mirror. And I still remember to this day, it's a long time ago, it's 42 years ago, looking in the mirror, having the first shave, looking at my eyes and thinking, who are you?
Yeah. Like looking at someone else.
It was black. My eyes, because I got blue eyes, my eyes were black. My soul was black. My heart was black because I had 10 years of active addiction. And I just still remember that day. I just looked in the mirror and I thought, where's that blue-eyed little boy that I remember? That little boy that was scared, insecure, trying to be the man that he thought his father wanted him to be, and all that sort of crazy stuff, and yeah, man, it's been a very long journey for me. As I said, I've been doing this now for 42 years. I haven't had a drink since 82.
That's
That was
amazing,
my last
mate.
drink. But I relapsed in 1985, and I picked up heroin again, which became my drug of choice. And that lasted 5 months, and I haven't had a drink since the 3rd of the 3rd, 1986. And I don't say that for any other reason, but it's the truth. Yeah, I don't like telling. That's why my company's called The Truth About Addiction. My podcast's called The Truth About Addiction. The truth about addiction is that it robs us of our soul. I say to people all the time, I don't like the person I become when I drink alcohol or when I take any other drug. I actually like Ron today. That's such a gift.
It's a huge gift to wake up. This is what I'm saying about waking up at 5 a.m. and thinking, do you know what? I'm in a good place now. It's such a huge thing. And so many people haven't got that option now if they wake up after a skinful after the weekend, or it doesn't even have to be a skinful. That's why I say you don't have to be a raging alcoholic to have a problem with alcohol. You could be drinking a couple of glasses of wine a night and it affects your sleep, it affects your anxiety, and you think, do you know what, I can't get away from it. What's wrong with me? Or you could not drink in the week but binge at the weekends. Like there are so many levels of drinking that can make it a problem in your life. So I never really compare to others.
I agree fully. Like the binge, the functioning alcoholic, which you were to a certain degree, from what I'm picking up from
I was,
things like that. They're one of the hardest to get clean. I have friends who are worth $300 million. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. In anyone's language, it's a lot of money. Who's an alcoholic.
Yeah, well, it doesn't discriminate, does it?
And he won't listen to me because how can he be unmanageable and out of control when he's so successful?
Yeah, well, he might be successful in business, but what about his own personal life?
I say all the time, I don't care about your wealth, I care about your health.
Yeah, and
Your
quality of
mental health.
life, because you can't tell me he's living a full, expansive life with that in the bank if he's an alcoholic, So it's about putting it into perspective, isn't it? Of like asking yourself certain questions is how much does alcohol affect my quality of life? How is my health going to be in 5 years' time? Where do I want to be in a few years' time? And ask yourself these questions and think, okay, how will my life look like if I remove that drug from my life? And immediately, within a week, things get better. The results are really quick.
Yeah.
Even your health results, you can lose 30% of visceral fat of your organs really quickly.
Yep.
Your mental health improves, your anxiety reduces, your energy levels, your motivation at work. There's so many instant rewards. You just have to go through that withdrawing stage and the sugar monster and the cravings. But there are people out there to help you now, and there are so many resources out there to support you. And it's like I always say to people, give it a month, just see where you are after a month, and then make a choice after that. It's not a big thing to do. Set it as a challenge to yourself and think, okay, all right, for the next month, I'm going to create a plan, and that's nutrition as well, sleep, exercise, keeping busy. When I always call it the pub opening hours, when you say you like love a drink at 7, start looking at doing something from 6:15, because then you get the voices, oh, and have a drink soon, and that'll take you over. So make a plan of those your personal opening hours, and think, right, and even if it means taking yourself to bed, just get out of the place, you know what I mean? Get into your safe space, watch Netflix or whatever, and just keep your mind off it. And there's another day. You wake up in the morning and think, right, day 3, day 4, day 5, and then the week. And this is what I did. And then you at the end of the month think, what's the plan now? How do I feel? Actually, I feel pretty good. And the kids are noticing a difference in me, and I'm spending more time with them. And, you know, I've got a little bit more energy, and this is all right, actually. I'm going to try and do another week.
I'm not so miserable.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of a sudden, I'm smiling. Wait a minute, I'm being nice to my wife.
Yeah, all of these things. Yeah. And then before you know it, you look back and you think, do you know what? I haven't had a drink for 3 months. This is fantastic. And then you can't go from not jogging to a 10K in 3 days. It's a progress, isn't it? Right. So you have to just chip away at it, and then you get your results.
It's a journey.
And then before you know, it is a journey. And you think, do you know what? I certainly did. I look back and thought, I didn't think I could do it, but I am doing it, and I'm gonna do it. And that's what the difference was for me.
I have a thing I say to people. If I said to you, you can't fail, what would you want out of your life?
Yeah.
If I told you you can't fail, you can achieve anything you want, what would you like to achieve? A lot of them say to me, just not have a drink for one day. In the beginning. Then they get that month up and they say, like, wow, that was so much easier than I thought it was. So half your problem is your thinking, not your drinking.
It is. And it's about changing the narrative. And that's where you need support as well, because there are people who have done it and experienced it and can hold your hand and go, look, maybe try this. Because, you know, some people do it and they have a slip up. I hate the word relapse.
Yeah.
They have a slip up, and it's like, what is the best you can do with that then? Shame yourself, say you're useless and you just can't do it? Or do you say, actually, all right, identify why I did it, and then learn from that and move on, and then try again? And I know people that have tried 10 times, 15 times, and they finally put that bit of the puzzle in there, and there's the full picture, and they go, right, it's taken me a while, but I'm getting there now, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's not a race. I say, if you're walking across the road and you fall over, do you lay in the middle of the road, or you get up and dust yourself up and get on with it?
Exactly.
Just dust yourself up and get on with it. There is no shame. You tried. The only shame is if you don't try.
Yeah.
You know? There's a lot of work.
And we have to remember that it's a highly addictive drug.
Yeah.
You know, it is a highly, highly addictive drug that's promoted and marketed wherever you look. It's on birthday cards, Christmas cards, mummy wine culture. It's in films, documentaries. It's everywhere you look is drinking, drinking, drinking. As I said before, good day, bad day, any day. Oh, let's have a drink. So we're brainwashed, right?
Yep.
And this is why it's so difficult to move away. And then when you start to get on your sobriety streak and your mates saying, "Oh, you all right? You weren't a bad drinker."
Mm.
And that goes back to when I say to you, Ron, that it doesn't matter how much you drink. If it's a problem in your life, then it's a problem and you need to sort it out, right? So even if it is a couple of glasses of wine, if it's a problem, sort it out. You
Okay.
know, it's important.
And 99.9% of the time, you know it's a problem.
Mm.
You know, but I've never heard anyone say, "Oh, gee, I wish I had woke up hungover tomorrow morning."
I know. And the worst thing for me, and I don't know if it's like it for you, but I never used to get hangovers because I was constantly half cut, I think. So I never ever had the opportunity to think, oh, I feel absolutely terrible, because before I knew it, I was topping up. So my system was constantly topping up with alcohol. So
Yeah.
it wasn't that I was laying there thinking, I feel so ill, I'm not drinking, because I would think, I wonder what time I can get my next drink.
You don't realize you've got an alcohol problem till you stop.
Exactly. And then you realize of all the problems you've been masking as well. So it's managing them as well. So best
Yeah.
thing I've ever done, mate.
Yeah, no, I had a client a couple of years ago. He used to start drinking at 4 a.m. because he started work at 7.
Oh, well, I couldn't do that.
So he'd start drinking at 4 a.m. So I had to get up at 4 a.m. every morning for 30 days, because I do a 30-day course with him before he started drinking. Because if I waited until 5, he drank. So I was getting up at 4 a.m. every morning and doing this course with him, an hour course every day. And mate, he's clean. It's really cool. It's beautiful. It's just wonderful. But I'll go to any lengths to sit beside you if it's going to help you not pick up the drink today.
Yeah.
And I don't believe it's not hard work for me. It's very rewarding. What I do, I believe, is the greatest gift I've ever been given.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, when I started to help people, it's almost like I found my purpose in life now, because I get so much from it. And experience people now that are 2, 3, 4, 5 years sober. And it hasn't just changed their lives, it's changed the lives of the people around them as well.
Yep.
Yeah. And I remember a story of a guy that was a similar drinker. And his wife sent me a message a year later with a photograph of his little girl, their little girl, helping him to plant something in the garden. And she said, you have no idea how much this means to me, because the little girl wouldn't even talk to her dad because he was always drunk and stunk of booze. And there they were. She had a little watering can watering the plant that they had helped plant. And to see that's like unbelievable, that always sticks in my mind, that one.
Yeah, it's priceless. My wife's not an alcoholic, and she doesn't understand the trauma that we go through as a practicing alcoholic. And she used to say to me sometimes, turn your phone off. I'd say, I can't. She said, what do you mean you can't? I'd say, I can't. It might save someone's life. They ring me at 3 o'clock in the morning. It might be the phone call they need to make. She understands it now. We've been together 12 years. But yeah, in the beginning, when she first met me, she couldn't understand why I wouldn't turn my phone off.
Yeah, I get that.
I'd say, honey, I can't.
Yeah, it's like you coming to me and saying you're a gambler. I wouldn't know where to start, right? So for people who haven't got an issue with drinking, it's really hard for them to understand it, isn't it?
Exactly. But I love the gifts of recovering. The gift for me was I had freedom from self. I don't have to be such a small parcel wrapped up in myself. And I was laughing about a story. A lady told me, she said, it wasn't so much buying the wine bottles, because I could go to lots of different shops to buy them. They go to a different bottle shop every night, so the bottler doesn't know that you're buying 3 bottles a night. She said it was when it came garbage night, trying to run and sneak around the whole suburb, putting 6 bottles in everyone else's garbage can. So the garbage man didn't realise you're the alcoholic. That's the insanity.
I know. It fills up the bandwidth in your brain about all the things that you have to manage when you're drinking like that, like the amount of times I would just have a supermarket bag with a empty liter of vodka and just slip it in the bin. But now I see that, I'm aware of other people that do that.
Yeah.
Or the terrible clanking of my recycling bin when the dustman would turn up and the neighbours would be walking past and I'd say, oh, I couldn't even say I had a party last night because they were my neighbours. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I like orange squash a lot, and you know, like just making up some old rubbish.
2 bottles of orange squash a week.
A night.
Yeah, mate. Look, I love the freedom. And that's what I get. You know, I get freedom from not drinking. I get freedom from self, freedom from fear, freedom from anxiety, freedom from depression. I don't take any sort of, I take heart medication because I'm 69 years of age and I've had a heart attack. But it's so nice, you know, I don't have to take anything anymore. It's
Yeah,
just so good.
I when I said about my health before, I was on tablets for my cholesterol, my blood pressure, my depression, and my acid reflux. And now I don't take a single thing.
Yep.
Everything is back to normal.
Yep.
And as I say, I've just done 2 mountain things. And I'm not going to lie, mate, they weren't easy. I didn't run up and buy a long shot, but I did them. I did them, and I come back with a T-shirt, and I'm just thinking about what else I can do. And I think I burnt my bridges on those ones. So I think it might be a deck chair with a hanky on my head, looking at a swimming pool for the next one. But you know, these are little challenges I set myself that I'm proud of myself about. And you know, I think if I was to go to the doctors now, my results would be a lot different from 5 years ago, for
I
sure.
say there's nothing I can't do except for drink or drug. I can do everything else. Whatever I set my mind to, I become very successful. I wrote a book myself.
Well done. There you go.
Born into the Lie of Crime.
Yeah.
That book's quite scary when you look at it. That's me as a 14-year-old holding onto a Tommy gun. That's real. That's not a joke photo. That's a real photo in my dad's. Because my dad was a gangster.
Sounds like you were.
Yeah, I was a long time ago.
Yeah. In a different life, mate.
I was what I thought my father wanted me to be. If my dad had been a policeman, I would have been a top cop. If my dad had been a doctor, I would have been a brain surgeon.
Yeah.
I was I was a better criminal than he was, even though I spent a lot of time in prison. So I mightn't have been. But you know, as I say to people all the time, you know, like if my father had been a lawyer, I would have been a Queen's Counsel. If he had been a doctor, I would have been a brain surgeon. If he had been a policeman, I would have been a superintendent. But he wasn't. He was a gangster.
Yeah.
I was taught from the time I could walk until I made my own decision. At 16 years sober, I got arrested, went back to prison. That was hectic. That was hectic. That was hectic. To go back to prison and to remain sober, I went back and served another 8 years.
Wow.
In prison. And how did I stay clean? By helping everyone else get clean.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a good story, mate. Well done.
That's what I did. I helped everybody else, mate, and I helped other people. And, mate, I got to a point where the governor of the jail helped me set up a rehab in the jail and gave me the full run of the jail. I wrote the process and procedures to a drug rehab in a prison.
That's fantastic, mate. Well done.
You know, we talk about the universe and the energies. I believe in all that stuff.
Yeah, I do.
I was put there at that time to carry a message. I did my job. I remained sober. So I wish it didn't happen. My word, I did, but it did. I can't. You'd said it before. We can't change the past.
And it's all part of who you are now, Ron. And the rich tapestry of your life is how you can use those examples to help others stay clean and on the straight and narrow, you know. And I believe in that, and I believe in the universe, that timing is right. You know, as I said before, where would I be now if that guy wasn't in at that time? You know, well, I might be dead.
He was always going to be in because that was what it was meant to be. It is what it is.
Do you know what? As well, we went out for something to eat about 8 months before that, and he sat there, and he was one of those people. He's one of those people that would meet you and go, right, and tell you something about you that you have no idea how he would know it. He's one of those people, right? And he said to me, I have a real sense from God that something incredible is going to happen to you in the next few months. And I was like, oh, what's that then? Am I going to win the lottery?
Win the lottery?
Yeah. Like, I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
But that happened, and it has totally changed my life, but it's changed others around me and people all over the world as well. You know, one of my first clients was in Australia. I remember, with the time difference and that,
Oh, really?
you know, and she's sober now and 5 years, I think. And, you know, like, it's an incredible gift to be able to give yourself, but others as well.
Yeah. I say I don't buy lottery tickets because I've already won it. That's the truth.
Yeah.
I don't buy lottery tickets because I feel I've already won the lotto. My recovery is my lotto.
Yeah.
And this is the greatest gift I've ever been given, is recovery.
Yeah.
And I worked hard for it, and I work hard to maintain it. It's not hard work. It's just, when I say I work hard, I know that I cannot have a drink and have a good life. There's no if, buts, or maybes. There's no grey area with me. If I pick up one, I may never stop again.
Well, 100%. And also, if you had a drink today, your life would decline immediately, because your mental health would, and your anxiety would spiral out of control, knowing that you've had that drink. And this is why it's a non-negotiable for me. People say, well, you don't know, you never drink again. And I pretty much do, mate. I do. And I look at it like I'm allergic to it. You know, like
100%.
people get nut allergies. Yeah. And like, if I have a drink, it will kill me. So don't have a drink. And the non-negotiable for me really works, because it's out of the question. It's not in the mix, right? So I can move on. I've cut it out of my life.
I've said that for 37.5 years now. It's not negotiable. No matter how it goes I'm thinking or how bad I'm feeling, a drink is not going to fix it.
Yeah.
A drug, a drink, whatever you want is not going to fix it. It's going to compound it and make it worse. I said 37.5 years ago in a detox center, I'd rather put a gun in my mouth and blow my head off than go back to being a drug addict and a drunk. I still feel the same today.
Yeah, I relate to that. And I look at pictures of myself back then. I don't even know who I am back then. Like, I look in my eyes and they look dead.
Yeah.
You know, as you said earlier about being black, you know, my eyes were black, soulless, no sense of purpose. And I want to give that man a big hug and say, do you know what, mate? It's going to work out. You're going to be okay. That's how I feel about it. And I did a talk at an event recently, and at the last minute, I said, can you put this picture on the presentation? And they did, right at the beginning. So I stood up in front of all these people and I looked at the screen and I started crying, because it really got me. Like, it was that trigger point of, you poor man, like, what were you going through right then? And it really upset me, and it changed my entire talk that I had prepared, because of that moment of, what must you have been going through? And I knew what I was going through, but it it was, until I got sober, I couldn't identify it properly. It was like I was just coping. I was using alcohol as a coping mechanism for life, right? Not a particular one problem. It's just, I need to drink to get through life, because that all accrued so much that it was like a bird's nest. I couldn't break it all down. And it was only till I stopped drinking that I could start to gradually pick it apart. And it took time. I got a therapist, which was really important for me, who's helped me immensely to unravel it all and put things in perspective. And there are certain things that I can't change, like my mum leaving. But what I realized that I could learn from that, and what happened then was that I become the man I am now, like I just said to you.
Yeah.
And once I identified that, that gave my self-esteem a boost, and it wasn't my fault. It was circumstance that created that, and not me. But at the time, I thought it was me, you know, the rejection, and am I not worthy enough? Am I unlovable? And I carried that throughout my life. And that's why I drank, to give me a full sense of security.
Yeah. No, I agree 1,000,000%. And we always usually have a trigger point. We always usually have, you know, Dr. 𝐬𝐫𝐢𝐮 talks about the trauma and all that stuff. And I always say it doesn't matter what it is, it's what we're doing about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what started our alcoholism, our addictions, or whatever it is, it's what we do about it today. And as long as we keep moving forward one day at a time, because I can't get into the future, but I'm the same as you. I say to people, I'll never drink again.
Yeah.
I'll never drug again. They say, why? How can you say that? I say, because I don't want to.
Mm.
And it's such a gift to not want to drink, where before I wanted to stop, but I couldn't. Now I never want to start. I just couldn't. I don't hate myself that much anymore, Dave.
No.
You know what I mean? I believe active alcoholism and drug addiction is a form of self-abuse.
It is, absolutely.
It's slashing up from the soul.
Yeah.
It's slashing up our soul and our integrity and our.
It's self-harming.
It is self-harm, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, quick question I want to ask you. Your program, it's a one-on-one program, is it?
I have a few different ones actually, Ron. I do one-on-one coaching, but I've just launched one which is more like a community-based one with group coaching as well that people can join. So it's like a subscription because, there's this buzzwords over here in the UK, the cost of living crisis, and with the electricity bills and everything. So everyone's really struggling at the moment. So I've created this program where I'm doing daily group coaching sessions that people can drop into, and I've created a community private group on Facebook that people can connect because I believe connection's everything.
Yep.
And it's £1 a day, to be honest, to join that, because I want to be there, do the best. So it's daily, Monday to Friday. I've got that. I think group coaching is really powerful as well because people can communicate, they can listen to other people's problems and relate to them. Yeah, I do that. And I'll tell you a thing that I have just done, Ron, and it's like you've got your book, and I don't know if you're ever going to do it or if you've done it, but I've recorded my audio book, and that was one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my whole life. Honestly, I'm not a reader anyway, but to be in a studio for 2 days and read your own book out with someone going, oh, take a pause there, or there's a little comment there, like, oh, maybe raise the energy there. It's like I come out of there, I thought my head was going to blow off.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've done that.
I'm not going to do it.
No.
I'm not going to do it. I'm in the midst of writing the second book because this book finished in 2002.
Yeah.
So I'm in the midst of writing the second book, and then I'm going to write a book just on recovery, just purely based on recovery. Just a simple book of Ron's recovery. This is my story about my recovery.
That's a good title, actually, isn't it? Ron's recovery.
Yeah. Not the bullshit, not the philosophical drama and the crap, and not the crime. The crime, it's really sad to say this. The first book was basically set up for the second book. So the second book's all about recovery. The first book's all about my past, which makes people interested because people aren't interested in the recovery.
Yeah.
They want to read the bullshit first. And they go, oh, that guy's really interesting. His dad was a criminal, he went to jail and he shot people, he done all this shit. But not how many hours, thousands of hours we've sat with people and helped them save their lives.
Yeah.
Which I believe is gangster. You want to know what a gangster is? Somebody puts food on the table for their family.
Yeah.
Someone who goes to work when he feels sick and he doesn't want to go to work. Someone who doesn't argue with his wife because he has to be right. Someone whose children aren't afraid of him. That's gangster.
Yeah.
That's gangster.
I like that. Yeah.
Oh, I'm a gangster. I'm more gangster today than I've ever been.
Yeah, good lad. Well done.
Yeah, I love what I do, mate. Dave, I really love what you're doing. I'm going to go and look at your program, and my attitude is, the more programs like ours that are out there, the better it is.
Absolutely. The
And the more
choice.
we can recover out loud, the better it is.
100%. And I don't know what it's like over there, mate, but in the UK, things are beginning to change. There's a lot of the younger generation now that are more health conscious and they're choosing not to drink. A lot of people our age, my age, that are changing their outlook towards alcohol now. A lot of women that are realizing that going through the menopause and still drinking is really derogatory and making them feel 10 times worse. there's a lot of information out there. And anyone listening to this, that they feel inspired by both of our conversations, it's just try and start on day one and think, right, okay, make a plan, do 30 days. And, you know, there's another thing as well that people go, well, Christmas is coming up. There's never a right time, right? And also, how do you want your Christmas to look like this year? Do you want it to be falling asleep in the afternoon, feeling rough, and you've had a month of Christmas parties and you've put on weight and feel terrible? Or do you want to head into 2024 feeling fresher, lighter, more motivated, and your relationships are better? Ask questions, you know, and start on day one and work from there. Connect with the community, read our books. You know, there's loads of stuff on YouTube. There's so much information out there.
How do people get in contact with you, Dave?
Well, they can find me on Instagram at Soberdave. All my stuff's on there, everything in my bio, my programs, my book, soon my audio book.
I'll listen to that one. I'll listen to that one.
And, you know, my podcast as well, you know, One for the Road, and that's the same name of the book. But, you know, I'm like you, Ron. I love your style of hosting podcasts. It's like a coffee chat.
Exactly.
You know, there's no like list of questions. It's easy going. And my podcast is exactly the same. I've got loads of different guests on there, and I have specialists on there as well. That I've just had Professor David Nutt on last week, who wrote the book Drink, and you know, we had a fascinating conversation about psychedelics moving forward, how they can microdosing and stuff. So there's lots of interesting conversations as well as the life stories of people. Yeah, that was last week's episode, and he's amazing. Professor David Nutt is a genius, and his best mate is 𝐘𝐝𝐝𝐢𝐮𝐞𝐫, right?
Okay, I'll listen to 𝐘𝐝𝐝𝐢𝐮𝐞𝐫.
I've obviously put that question in. Can you get him on my podcast? Because
I've listened to his courses, 𝐘𝐝𝐝𝐢𝐮𝐞𝐫.
Yeah, he's incredible, isn't it? And then one of the mantras he says is, not why the addiction, why the pain.
Yeah, why the pain? It's not the trauma, it's what the trauma did to you.
Yeah, exactly. And it helps.
We'll have to send you an email and see if we can get on your podcast.
Absolutely, mate. Let's go for it.
The wife will send you an email and say, can you put Ronnie on your podcast? Because she does all that. I don't, as you know, she does all the hard work. I just sit here like...
She's your PA.
Yeah, she's my PA, all right? She's my personal... I wouldn't call her an assistant, more like arbitrator.
Yeah, there you go.
Mate, I couldn't do it without her.
No.
I couldn't do it
without her.
We all
need help as well, don't we? It can be overwhelming at times. Yeah.
I'm the luckiest man alive, Dave.
Oh, that's great to hear, mate. And I'm really grateful you've invited me on to share my story as well, mate, today.
I'm really, honestly, I don't have a big following, but I care about who I bring on. I don't care about numbers. I care about quality. It's like my drinking and drugging. I didn't care about quantity. I care about quality. I was always looking for the effect.
Yeah.
I want the best. I don't want to wear an imitation Rolex. I want to wear a real Rolex.
Yeah.
You know? Not what you know, it's what I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's always been my style. You know, I'm a big believer in quality.
Yeah.
I want quality guests. I don't want numbers. Yeah. You know, I get these guys that I've got hundreds of thousands of followers. I don't give a rat's ass. You haven't got a story to tell.
Exactly.
If you're doing this for your ego, I'm not part of your fucking ego pumping station.
Well, I take that as a big compliment. So thank you, Ron.
No, Dave, lovely chatting, mate. I hope we can do it again one day.
Yes, sir.
And as I said, you know, welcome to the Truth About Addiction. And Sober Dave, thank you very much, mate.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure.
I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.